And I think there is just so much emphasis on the here and now, what you can touch, what you can see, that the idea of a soul, of a human life, big ideas that are nonetheless just so crucial to every facet of human life, they're always set aside. And I bought into that. It was a little bit of a combination of things, because I was starting to question how I understood reality, so to speak.
Hello and welcome back to Lifesavers, the official podcast of Pro-Life Global. We are so excited for our next episode today because we have a very special guest, Iulia Cazan, who is joining us from Romania today, and she is the Associate Director for Government Affairs at the UN for CFAM, which is an incredible pro-life international organization which is defending life at major international bodies like the United Nations, where we know that a lot of pro-abortion ideology is flooding into developing countries. So, Iulia, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very humbled by it.
Well, it's so good to speak with you. I know that we first met, I think, at the United Nations, at the Commission on the Status of Women a few years ago. And, it's so inspiring to see, fellow young person who is defending life full time, who is dedicating their professional vocation toward not only saving lives, but saving hearts and saving souls. So with that, I guess the best way for us to get to know you would be, why are you pro-life?
Well, I was not always pro-life. I actually started off by defending or being an advocate for sexual and reproductive health. That happened in my first year of college, and at the time I did not really have any kind of opinions on this topic. I sort of did what I thought is the right thing, and it sounded like that is something that is good for women. I did not really understand the extent to which abortion was part of it, but even so, I did not have any strong opinions about it. But growing and learning more, I would say that two major factors influenced me so that I would have these beliefs now, the pro-life beliefs. The first one was a class actually at my university. It was an ethics class, and I think that was the moment when I started to seriously question my beliefs. It was a very much of a rational exercise, an intellectual exercise where for the first time I realized the extent to which the pro-life side is actually coherent, is not this irrational, perspective that was often depicted in my social circles. And following this, let's say, more intellectual discovery, my rediscovered Christian faith was the moment where all of this started to cement in my heart. Because in our belief is that every human being is valuable, and every human is made in the image of God. And walking in the faith, you more and more realize that what a beautiful thing that is, what a sacred thing that is, and how we've become so desensitized to one another, to our fellow humans, and that no matter the stage of development, even if you're a child, if you're an elderly, or if you are a baby in the womb, the scripture and the tradition of the church has kept this truth that it is beautiful, it is special, and it matters. And I think for me I now do this kind of work, which is almost at the opposite side of the spectrum of what I used to do in my first year of college, is a way for me to give back a little bit and have an impact from the perspective of someone who was once misled by the lie that life does not matter.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. And something that stuck out to me is that this was an ethics class. It wasn't a biology class. It was a class which was asking philosophical questions, not what is the unborn, but how should we treat the unborn? And that's a really interesting distinction, right? Because I mean, we know that there was this worldwide survey of biologists, and they found that, I believe it was 96% of them agree that the life of a mammal begins at the point of conception. So this is something that is not controversial among the medical literature, especially in this sample set of scientists who were majority left-leaning. But it's a further question that as pro-lifers we must ask. How do we treat the unborn? Do we treat them as persons? So I'm curious, Iulia, before you took this class, did you have an intellectual understanding that the unborn is life? Or was that something that you learned as you were asking these philosophical questions?
To my shame, I didn't think about it. I did not treat this seriously. I didn't, because at the time my faith was quite superficial. I did not ask any of these profound questions, and I think there is just so much emphasis on the here and now, what you can touch, what you can see, that the idea of a soul, of a human life, these big ideas that are nonetheless just so crucial to every facet of human life, they're always set aside. And I bought into that, and I did not have opinions on that.
Wow. So it was when you became pro-life that you became a stronger Christian.
It was a little bit of a combination of things, because I was starting to question some things about the way, well, how I understood reality, so to speak. But it started with politics. It started with freedom of speech. This happened during COVID. So I was questioning many assumptions I had. And then this ethics, this philosophy class happened during that time. And then as I was in this rediscovery phase of political beliefs and perhaps some philosophical beliefs, it so happened that I also had a major moment or series of moments that were so crucial to me, understanding the Christian faith more and embracing it, and then being on this path.
Would you like to share about any of those particular moments, or is it more of a gradual journey for you?
It was definitely a gradual journey, but I do remember some key moments, some key people I've met. And the overarching theme was seeing people live out the faith truthfully and with so much love for God. That is what opened my heart. Well, perhaps there were many prayers behind my back that I was unaware of, including from my mom and my spiritual father here in Romania. But I know that it was also me seeing people live out the faith with so much joy and love for God and for truth. And that little by little, and then I just started to read the Holy Scriptures and understand more about what happened. From then on, it's been a continuous journey.
Wow, that's so beautiful, Iulia. Thank you for sharing. So what did it look like when you came from this period of spiritual growth and you decided that you wanted to be someone who was actively saving lives, not only believing that the unborn is a human worthy of our protection, but you wanted to be a lifesaver? How did you become involved in the pro-life movement?
It was not, I did not decide, okay, this is the path for me. I think God put it there for me. I was in a phase of trying to figure out what my future would look like. I was about to finish college, so then the natural next step for many people is to look for a job. And so I prayed about it, and I thought that I wanted to be part of the conservative or Christian, as I understood it at the time, movement, or because I studied political science, and I thought that on the social side of things, political side of things, perhaps I could make a contribution for I had an umbrella of topics that I was passionate about, being the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, pro-life and pro-family issues. And so as I was looking for jobs, I was very much focused on these kind of things. Well, actually, that, and I was also kind of thinking about law school, so I was also considering a paralegal role. But my hope and where my heart and my interests were the most was this kind of social type of political social type of work. And I definitely think it was from God, because it just so aligned. These little moments just made it happen that I discovered CFAM, this organization that I've never heard before, that's active at the UN and does this tremendous work of protecting these values, the pro-life, pro-family values. And they were active at the UN, and I was familiar with the UN through my past experiences, and so it fit perfectly. And then a few months later, I moved from Philly to New York City to start this job.
Wow, that's beautiful. So you have had a lot of time in New York City at the United Nations, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of optimism there and a lot of pessimism there. From the pro-life perspective, where we see so many amazing pro-life leaders active at this international body to defend life in international law. But you also see there a lot of darkness, I think. So is there a particular moment when you had an encounter with this light or this darkness there at the UN that you'd like to share with us?
I think that I see light whenever I see people who are passionate about helping other people and cherishing life, as I mentioned earlier. At every stage, I see advocates from all corners of the world and walks of life who gather there. And I see diplomats who are very eager, because of their faith, to protect these values, despite the great pressure they face from big donors, from these big agencies and powerful countries that don't have these perspectives, and that are quite aggressive in promoting the more secular, progressive side of things when it comes to the right to life for the unborn, or families, or gender. So these are moments where I get encouraged. The moments that were dark were, I think, when our side is very much, and perhaps it can happen on both sides to some level, when it dehumanizes the other side, or there's just so much anger. I saw moments where there was just so much anger directed at people who defend the unborn, and I think there's a very big misunderstanding between the two sides, and it just made me feel very sad, because I realized the extent to which these ideas that we have, this belief, this core belief, has been kind of caricatured, and it makes people very, very angry. And to me, that is sad.
Thank you for sharing that. I've seen some of that at the UN as well, where there are these massive protests outside. I think in my particular experience, it wasn't on the issue of abortion specifically, but there are a lot of really good people who are representing various countries at the United Nations, and I think there's a lot of cause for hope. But one thing I think that we see is that depending on which administrations are in office, the culture at the UN when it comes to life really shifts. And so I'm so grateful for the work that you do at CFAM, and I am looking forward to this next year to come. I know that you are just leading a coalition of young people around the world who are willing to be lifesavers to say that we will speak out against these pressures that are degrading national sovereignty. So if there's anything else you'd like to share with us about kind of the nature of your work, or any last messages that you would like to leave with us about the way forward for the pro-life movement at the United Nations.
I think there's hope And something that stands out to me, or something that I'm thinking about actively, is that these agencies, these groups that are pro-abortion, they work in different parts of the world. They know the loops, so to speak, and they know where to act because they understand this. They understand that cultures, there are many cultures who don't agree, many people who do not agree with abortion, but they see these people as being retrograde. They see them as being not somehow they think they are inferior morally and intellectually. So they're on a quest of, in a sense, changing their minds and their hearts on this, because they know that that's where the key is. And I agree that the key is there. I know people disagree on legislation, but I truly believe that it's the people of a country, their shared beliefs, that really can have a very big impact. So what I want to warn against, and I think perhaps this is a space for pro-life advocacy, and I know Pro-Life Global does a tremendous job at this, is to, in a way, raise awareness about this, about these active pro-abortion campaigns that are going on around the world, and so that the local authorities or the people are aware of what is happening, and our perspective is also presented, because people have the right to information and to choose. And what I see is that when groups like Pro-Life Global and others who work with students, once information is presented in a way that's digestible and people can have a conversation about it, it can have such a big impact. So that's what I wanted to warn against a little bit about these programs.
Yes. No, there's so much wisdom there that we can't get too bogged down in what is happening at the macro level, that we forget that really it comes down to person outreach. And that's why, at Pro-Life Global, we emphasize so much our outreaches as part of our pro-life trainings, where we allow students to go out into the streets and have one-on-one conversations, because it's in our own communities that our pro-life activity should start. And so thank you for that encouragement. And so for anyone watching this episode, I would just encourage you that you can be a lifesaver, and you will be a lifesaver if you begin to have those one-on-one conversations. Start in your family, start in your school, start in your community. Those are the places to begin. And just as we are here to save lives, as Iulia spoke about, this is really a ground for encounter. This is a ground for deepening in our faith, so that we can not only save hearts, but save souls, because we believe not only in life, but in eternal life. So thank you so much, Iulia, for joining us, and I look forward to the years to come and working together to build a culture of life across this globe.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm humbled by the invitation.